Happy Saturday, everyone. The weekend is upon us, and we're going to kickstart it off with an on the minute for max reps. So I hope you guys enjoy this one. I really like this one, and I'll explain how I took this down later on, but we'll talk about our warm-up first. Our warm-up is going to consist of some heel elevated squats, 3 at 3-1-3, heel elevated squat hold at a 10 to 20 second hold, active, and then a heel elevated goblet squat for 3 at 3-1-3 as well to work on position and tension in that squat. From there, we're going to take that same dumbbell and use a weighted Deadbug and hold that position and work on opening up the hips a bit and balancing out that core. 6 total reps. And then we're going to ditch the dumbbell and we're going to come into a tuck hollow with extension for 20 seconds of a nice smooth flow with the legs. 1 to 2 rounds of that, and then we're going to move down to this bottom piece, which is going to be kind of a fun little mix and match. We're going to work on a single arm front rack hold and a suitcase hold for 15 seconds, and then we'll switch them and use that to help kind of warm up some core positioning, what we kind of figure we want to use for our front rack hold in our workout, but also by just kind of experimenting with some different types of holds as we warm up. From there, we're going to move into a side plank reach through for 20 seconds a side, and a plank to down dog for 3 to 5 to really open up the shoulders a bit and just kind of really feel things out and make sure things are getting warm and ready. If you want to add in some air squats here, you can to get prepped for the work set, but we did a lot of squat warm up in the opening sequence. But if you did want to continue doing a little bit more squatting or some leg stuff down here, you can add that in at the bottom as well. You'll hit that bottom piece anywhere 2 to 3 rounds to get yourself fired up, figure out working weight. Then we're going to set our clock timer for an on the minute. We're going to take down a on the minute for 12 minutes, which is 4 rounds of work. You are going to take down a dumbbell front rack hold for a max time in that minute. So if you can hold for the whole minute, take it down. Then from there, we're going to move into minute 2 for V-up, max rep V-up. All right, so you're going to try and get as many V-ups as you can in that time frame. And then our last minute is going to be an air squat. So you're going to take down a nice smooth set of air squats for 60 seconds. Now when I did this work set, I took this as a moderate to lower intensity kind of date. When I did it, I held my dumbbells really strong for the whole minute. I just went with a weight I knew I could hold for the whole minute. V-ups, I did them in smaller sets, and I could practice on a few key points of technique that I was working on. And then my air squats, I didn't sprint them, I just kept a nice, smooth, steady pace that I know I could maintain, and also something I knew I could work on, getting my feet nice and flat and working on my position for my balance. So I just took it at a nice, steady flow for the 4 rounds, and it worked out really well for me. Now, if you really want to push these minutes, be my guest. You can hammer these out and see where your numbers lie over the course of four rounds, but I want you guys to know that you can approach this any way you'd like to get the most out of your work set today for you. Now let's warm you up, let's get you ready. We'll have some fun on this beautiful Saturday. Okay, let's get those feet under those hips. We'll take the arms big and tall overhead. We're gonna reach it over to one side with a big old stretch. We're gonna come back through, reach it over, big old stretch. Good, we'll take those hands out to the T. We're gonna turn them in, turn them out, turn them in, and out, and in, and out. Big stretch. We're gonna forward fold all the way down the floor, touching those toes. We're gonna walk up our shins. We're gonna come all the way down, framing the foot. We'll step back into your lizard. Nice and square in those hips. We're gonna lower the back knee. Just gently press the hip down. Open up with the outside hand. We'll come back down, press the hip, come back through, outside hand. Down, pressing the hip, come through, outside hand. Plant that hand, grip the floor, straighten out the leg. We'll step back into our down dog. As we open up that upper back and shoulder, press the foot, come back to center. Nice plank position. We'll step the other foot up, nice and square. We'll lower the back knee, press the hip, come through, outside hand. Lower down, press the hip, come through, outside hand, and lower down, press that hip, come through, outside hand. Planting that hand, we'll grip the floor, press the leg straight back, step her back into that down dog as we reach those hips. Go back into your plank, push the floor away to those feet. Nice and solid, roll ourselves up, big stretch. Good, little reach, come back down. Let's get ourselves fired up. All right, now, pause the video. If you'd like to take down any extra movement for yourself, maybe some ankle or more hip, maybe some upper body stuff, take that time to do that. I'm going to start firing you guys up with a little bit of squat work and get you guys ready to go. All right, our next phase of work is going to start off with some heel elevated squat work. Or if you don't have an elevation for your feet, you can do this all regular squat stance with that flat foot position. But if you do have an elevated surface that you're comfortable with that's about 1 inch or 2 high, we're going to take the portion of our foot where our laces are, and we're going to put that right along the edge of that surface. I'm using a plate, 10-pound plate. It's a little just over 1 inch high, we'll say. But I'm going to keep my big toes down. I'm in a slightly narrower stance than I normally would be for my squat, but my toes are going to point straight ahead as well. So a slightly different stance than what I would be doing on the floor, but we're going to work on those ankles a bit. So what we're going to work on is staying nice and square to that midfoot. I'm going to draw my hips towards my heels, keeping myself centered over top of those laces, holding that position, and then standing tall. So I'm going to hit that for a 3-second tempo, 1 second pause, push through the feet. So again, I take that down, 3 seconds, nice smooth lower, push through those feet, and stand up. Once I've done 3 reps of that, I'm going to hold in the bottom. And the hard part about this is not disengaging at the bottom of our squat. So we do another squat, we come down, we're going to stay nice and active, weight through that midfoot, nice flat kind of positioning, just like I'd be if my feet were on the floor. And then I'm going to push through those feet after I've held my 10 to 20 second hold, rising shoulders and hips together. So we want to make sure that we're only holding down there as long as we can come up with a good position, not putting our hands in our thighs or shooting our hips up and then standing up. We want to make sure everything rises at the same time. Now after that, we have our goblet squat. And we're not actually loading our squats in our workout today, but we're going to use the goblet squat to get ourselves prepped and ready and to work on a little bit of activation to the upper body and some balance work. So I'm going to hold a dumbbell under my chin. I'm going to draw my hips down towards my heels. That's going to keep me a little bit more vertical with this position with the dumbbell. I'm going to push myself straight up, making sure my hips and shoulders rise together. So it's the same squat mechanics I was using for my air squat and my squat hold, except we're just taking it nice and smooth and stand with that dumbbell at the chest. Now once I'm done with my heel elevated goblet squat, I'm going to lay on my back. I'm going to use that same dumbbell in my weighted dead bug. So I'm going to lay on my back, I'm going to get myself set up. I'm going to start with my arms. So my arms are going to hold the dumbbell above my chest. I'm going to push the dumbbell to the sky, hold my ribs in, lift my feet up at a 90 degree. So I'm on a flipped over table, and then I'm going to keep my low back against the floor as I extend that leg out, and then I'll come back in and extend that leg out, keeping that nice and flat against my back, and then come back in. Now if that is too much to keep your low back against the floor, keep those ribs in, what we can work on setting that same position and just keeping a slight bend in the knee and lowering down. So kind of adjusting the distance and lower that leg position to make sure I can keep my low back on the floor. From there, we're going to move into a tuck hollow with extension. So we're going to test that core again. I'm going to come into a soft tuck. So I'm going to pull my knees and toes together into this little tuck. Then I'm going to pull my ribs together, pulling my knees and shoulders together in that nice tuck hollow position. Then I'm going to work on extending those legs nice and straight, keeping those knees as close to my shoulders as I can, and work nice and smooth through that process, through that tuck hollow with extension. So I'm really tapping into those hamstrings a bit while still working on some good solid compression through the core. It's a very challenging exercise, but I want you guys to try your best and try and keep those shoulders and knees as close together as you can. Now as a quick recap, we have a heel elevated squat for 3 to 3-1-3, heel elevated squat hold at 10 to 20 seconds, and a heel elevated goblet squat for 3 to 3-1-3. If you don't have an elevated surface, that's fine. You can do all those 3 things on the floor in a regular squat stance, working on those good positions. Once we're done, we're going to move into a weighted dead bug for 6 alternating reps. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, into a tuck hollow with extension for 20 seconds of just some smooth dynamic flow. We're not looking for a ton of reps here. I just want you to work for 20 seconds in that compressed position, and then call it a day. 1 to 2 rounds, take that down, get that core ready, get those legs ready. We're gonna come at you with a little bit more core work, some shoulder stuff, and some holds. So pause it, rock it, come back and join me. All right, we're gonna kickstart off this next phase with a single arm front rack and a single arm suitcase hold. So we're gonna work on cleaning up those dumbbells. We're gonna clean up one dumbbell to the side, up into that front rack, and the other hand is gonna hold at the side of the body. So I'm gonna be pushing into that single arm front rack, keeping those obliques, those lats, everything turned on, pressing into the dumbbell, keeping this one down by the side, nice and active in the shoulders so I'm not slouching, but I'm keeping my upper body as still and strong as I can. I'm gonna hold for 15 seconds here. Then I'll pull this hand down, I'll hinge, and I'll clean the other side up into that same hold. So we're resting the back of the dumbbell on the shoulder, pushing into that dumbbell like we did the other side, keeping this other hand down here in the suitcase in that nice down position for the shoulder, so we're nice and strong through the upper body. Now the important piece about this is that we're working on building that control through the midsection to support and support. So that waist up, super strong and solid. Our legs, very much so a part of this as well, so we're locking them into place, screwing those feet into the floor, so they're active as well, so we're supporting our upper body with that strong lower body as well. That's going to give you a good opportunity to practice and warm up your front rack hold in a nice cool way with a nice little mix and twist with that arm in the suitcase. Once we're done that, we're going to move into our side plank reach through. So what we're going to do, we have a couple of ways of doing this. We can get ourselves set up in our full side plank, so we're nice and stacked, nice and active in the side plank. This upper arm is going to rotate through, reaching through as best I can, and then coming back up into that nice T position. Now with that, we're trying to keep those feet stacked and not rolling onto the toes, so that we're getting the rotation through the upper body alone, and that lower body is kind of staying still. Now, if that's too much pressure on the arm or your balance is a little off when you're trying to do the rotation, it's not so much about the side plank as it is the rotation. So if that's a struggle for you, come into the tabletop. Keeping one knee down, we'll extend the back leg, turn it to the side, opening up to the side through the hip, and then opening into our supported side plank. Now we're going to bring that arm through, same idea, and work on that rotation strength and balance with the knee down. So it's going to allow us to kind of focus on the rotation and take the balance aspect out of it. From there, you can build into a bladed foot stance, and then you can work on that stacked foot position for that rotation. So a couple different progressions to build you into that full side plank reach through. From there, we're going to go into our trusty plank to down dog. So I'm going to get myself set up in my plank, hands just outside the shoulders, pushing the floor away to get those shoulders active. Push through the ground the entire time, softening the knees, reaching the hips, and pushing into that nice active down dog. Then I'll come back into my plank, pushing the floor away, nice and active, pulling back into that down dog, really taking the time to feel that shoulder position, that shoulder activation as we go from that plank to the overhead position. So it's a nice chance just to move that body really, really well through that range of motion. Now, as a quick recap, we have a single arm dumbbell front rack hold with a single arm suitcase hold. 15 seconds, switch it over, 15 seconds. Side plank reach through, 20 seconds per side, and then we have a plank to down dog for 3 to 5 reps. Repeat, changing your loads for your holds, and just continuing to work on opening up that shoulder and that rotation for each round. Once we're done that, we're going to move into our work set or a practice round of our work set, maybe for 30 to 20 seconds each, just to make sure we're comfortable with the movements we're choosing, and then start that clock timer and let the beeps guide us to fitness. So pause the video, warm that stuff up, come back and join me, we'll talk about the workout. Our workout is about to begin, you guys, but there's nothing wrong with taking a couple practice rounds, maybe 20 seconds each or 30 seconds each, just to make sure you're comfortable with the loading that you're using for your front rack hold, the option you're choosing for your V-up, and just getting a couple good air squats in there. So our workout today, on the minute for 12 minutes. That's 4 rounds of work. Minute number 1, max hold in a minute, for your front rack hold. And you can go pretty heavy with this depending on how you want to take this down, but we want to make sure we're banking as much time in that minute as we can. Now with the front rack hold, in our warm-up, we did a single arm front rack hold. In the workout, we're going to hold that good position, 2 dumbbells up in the front rack, pushing through that upper body and that mid body to support those dumbbells well. I'd prefer to hold the dumbbells at the 45 so we can use our musculature to build and strengthen in this position than just resting your dumbbells up on the shoulders and just stacking them. All right? I want you guys to get the most bang out of your butt, and that is going to be holding those dumbbells on that 45 degree. If you're doing a single arm hold, what I would suggest is one of 2 things. Single arm for the full minute. Next round, switch sides, and you'll get 2 per side. Or you can do 30 seconds on one side, 30 seconds on the other side, and then continue on as you go. So it depends on how you want to take it down. I'm totally fine with a full minute on one side, and then switch, you'll get 2 rounds per. Minute number 2, it's a spicy one. We got V-ups. So the V-up, we can do multiple different exercises for this. We have our full V-up, which is going to be 2 feet snapping up and touching our toes and hands. So we get set, we snap it up, and then we come back down. Or we can work through our single leg, up and up. So we're trying to meet at the hip. So we're trying to bring our upper body and our leg at that center line. You may find that it's a little challenging to get the legs straight, both legs up, but if you can meet at that center line with both legs, you're like, okay, yeah, okay, the 2 legs might be a little bit tough, maybe I'll do the single, keeping that leg nice and straight. As we work on building there, I want you to think about reaching up towards the toes as we bring that upper body up to the sky, reach towards the toes, try and get that little bit more height, and that'll help give you a target to get that activation. Now, if you're not quite comfortable with the straight leg, we can work on our tuck up. Same rules apply. We come up, meeting at the hip, and then extend. We can also do a single leg, working on that single leg, meeting at this midsection, but keeping this knee slightly bent in our tuck up. Again though, like I mentioned, same rules apply. We're meeting at the hip, so upper and lower are moving together. If you struggle getting both parts of the body to move together, what we can work on is a hollow up, so it's a smaller range of motion. We're pulling our ribs and sternum together. We're going to hit that hollow and get both hands and feet working together to rise at the same time. It's a very small range of motion. We're not trying to come too high, but we are trying to get both halves of the body to move in unison and work together. Now another variation, if you find that maybe your legs are coming up but your upper body's not leaving the ground, we can bring our legs up into a nice L. My hands are going to reach towards my toes. I'm going to squeeze and try and touch my toes with shoelaces. Squeeze and come back down and work on my laying toe touch. Now the laying toe touch is a little slower, but in this work, with a minute, trying to get as many reps as you can, it's a pretty good option because you're not limited by your reps. It's not going to take a lot of time. You have a minute to do what you can, so if you want to do small little sets to build that, great bang for your buck in terms of core engagement, compression strength, and just a whole lot of effort. Now if you want to go fast, we can also bring those toes together, isolating the upper body and work on the Pike Sit Up. So it's a little bit more of a dynamic sit-up, using momentum from the arms, trying to keep the legs straight as we come through and touch our toes. So it's a nice opportunity to work on a little hamstring stretch and getting a little bit of good core work with that nice momentum. Now I'll have a couple other options for you on the workout description for that. So if you want to pick and choose and see where you want to go with that, take her down. My suggestion though would be pick the same exercise for all 4 rounds so you can see kind of where things start to drop off as fatigue starts to set in your rounds and your numbers. So it's a nice thing to just pick one. If you want to practice a couple before you go, be my guest. They're all great warm-ups for the choice that you're going to use. But pick one exercise, use it for all 4 rounds. Our last minute is an air squat. So we've already done a lot of squatting with the heels up earlier on, but we're going to get our feet in our natural squat stance, so hip to shoulder width, depending on the person. Toes can be slightly turned out. And we're gonna stay nice and upright. We're gonna try and keep our feet flat. Knees are gonna track the toes as I pull my hip towards the heels. So I'm trying to take that body down while keeping that body nice and upright and tall, taking it to a desired range. Now there's nothing wrong if you'd like to use a target. A couple things, it keeps you honest, it keeps you moving smoothly towards that target, allowing your body to kind of follow a nice path, and it also keeps you honest so you're not going to dump in the bottom. You have to take it at a smooth pace so you're not just plunging down to the ground. I hope you guys really enjoyed this one. I loved this workout when we did it. I did this one with Wiley. We had a lot of fun with it because, again, we took it at a nice, moderate kind of pace on the day that we were taking it down. It was a great chance to work on a few skills in that pacing. But if you want to crush this one, you definitely can. You can hammer this one out pretty hard if you really want to. So see how you're feeling. Take it the way you need to. Have fun with this one, you guys, and have a fantastic weekend. We'll see you on Monday for some more fun. Bye, you guys.